Dean Rogers, man, welcome to Pave the Way Podcast. I'm excited to have you on.
Thanks for having me, man. Let's do this.
Yeah, bro. I know we had a lot of the same friends for a while. We never connected.
I
And
know.
what it took like, probably a couple years and finally through pickleball, we've been able to meet in
Pickleball
person.
brings people together. Yeah, it's funny because I remember just seeing your name and I'm like, I need to meet this guy. I really need to meet this guy. But I'm not just gonna even though I've done this before, I just didn't feel like I should Facebook stalk you and be like, hey, let's hang out.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Dude, I'm like the same way, dude. I need an intro, like a bridge through somebody
right.
versus, yeah.
Yeah.
So funny.
So pickleball was the means to bring us together. And what better way to get sweaty together, rub shoulders and get some wins together. That's fun.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, for all the listeners, Dean's a pretty good pickleball player because he'll tell everyone about his background in a minute. He has some experience playing pro sports. So, Dean, I'm really impressed with your real estate journey. I mean, I know you, we live in San Diego, but I've also heard you on other people's podcasts in preparation for this. So I've been able to hear, how, you started your business. So if the listeners are not familiar with you, can you give everyone just like the high level overview on what you did before you became a full-time investor in California?
Yeah. So I'll give the cliff notes. So, growing up, I was a sports guy through and through, love sports. It's all I did. It's how I identified as my person. I'm a sports guy. So life was pretty simple, playing sports, going to school, that kind of stuff. In college, I was playing football in college, on scholarship and had scouts looking at me and, always been my dream. Like, look back at the stuff in school. What do you want to be when you're older? I put pro athlete. Like I believed
Yeah.
in myself then, like this is what my life's going to be. And so, but once you get to the college level and you're getting, scouted by NFL scouts, you're still not sure like 100% because it's not like I was a runner up to the Heisman or, the starting quarterback at, LSU or, name another good, college.
Alabama, Ohio
Alabama.
State.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. So I'm still kind of like on the fringe of like, is this really going to happen?
Yeah.
But naturally I had like all the accolades, first team All-American and all that kind of stuff in college as playing as tight end. And so, lo and behold, flash forward to just out of college, did all the pre-pro training stuff, training with other NFL guys, training for the combine, all the testing stuff, talking to all the NFL scouts, leading up to the draft and everything like that. And, it was the year of the lockout. So as soon as the draft happened, it was like radio silence, another 6 months of training of having no idea what's going to happen. And once the lockout lifted, soon after I got the call from the Chargers and they're like, hey, you got your bags packed? And it was literally like, hey, it's 4:00 in the afternoon. You're getting on a plane at 6 a.m. tomorrow and you're starting your career now. Like
Dude,
there's
that's so
no
sick.
warm up. It's like, hey, dude,
Yeah.
show up. We're going to, go through, medical, check your body, make sure you're not broken as you show up to camp. And, if you check out good, we're going to give you your pads, get all your gear, and we're starting practice today type of thing. Like it's pretty crazy.
Dude,
Um,
that's so dope.
so yeah, I've got tons of stories, about being in the NFL that are just crazy, like stuff you see on TV. It's like, well, that's like that's movie stuff, but that's for real. Like
Yeah.
that crazy stuff happened. And everything you could imagine, just like the first class stuff with money being thrown around stuff, exclusive events, VIP status, red carpet type of stuff, to just like insane Sports Illustrated models just showing up out of nowhere to events and like going up to people. Just lots of crazy stuff, and for me, just being in that environment, there's certainly the stuff because I'm a pretty like straight and narrow guy. Like I like to have fun. I'm a goofball, but there's just certain things that like my moral code isn't going to do.
Yeah, same.
So there were things that I stayed away from that are temptations, but then just the treatment, like my body had never felt better. The nutrition, the sports, the trainers taking care of your body, the trainers for working out and stuff like that. My body had never felt better. And, Norv Turner was stopping me in the hallways, telling me you're going to have a long career. Like I was making it, dude. I was like living my dream, and everything from the neck down felt amazing. And I was playing great, everything. But from the neck up, I truly was feeling it because I went from playing tight end to playing fullback for the Chargers, and primarily fullback. So, and they used me as like a skill player, as some teams would, where they'd put me out, to run routes in the backfield and hand the ball off. But your main position is to go destroy people that are 10 yards away in like a small, narrow gap that you're both trying to get to full speed, trying to kill each other. So if you do the math on that, there's a car crash that's happening every time. There's mass destruction happening. And if you're running through a narrow gap, chances are you're not like fitting up perfectly, and you're going to be crushing in your head a lot. So that was the reality. I'd come out of practice sometimes like icing my head, like, I need to help myself recover from my brain too. Which was kind of low key scary, I saw some dudes that had been in it for a while. Some of the vets, Junior Seau killed himself that year.
Man. He was on the Chargers, right?
He was on the Chargers, and he had a long career. He was in the league for like 14 or 15 years. He had a run with, the Chargers. He had a run with the Patriots, in their championship years. And so he had been around and a stud. And just remember seeing him come into practice, and now that he was retired, and talking to us, and kind of giving us speeches, and later that year killed himself. So there were just things that for me were kind of the writing on the wall. ESPN was finally starting to talk about concussions, and it was like,
I remember that.
News. Yeah. And that was before the Chargers even called me during the lockout, when I was training in Fresno with a handful of other NFL guys. And I was just like, I should think about this,
That's so cool.
It was a trip, dude. It was an incredible experience. It was, for me, I think the more I've talked about this recently, the more I've kind of realized how I feel about it. There's that feeling of like I missed out on not having a long career, because I certainly feel like I could have. But there's also the feeling of fulfillment to know that, all right, I got there. I know I can play at that level. And I also know that I'm not going to be, bedridden at the age of, 40 to 50, because like my brain just stopped working because I did so much damage to it.
Yeah, totally. And that's the thing. I remember, like, I used to watch a lot of football, and I remember they started talking about concussions and the mental health and all that stuff. And it was like, because everyone's like, oh, the NFL, like it is obviously the best football league in the world, but there's positives and negatives to everything in life. And it's smart that you made the decision to take your health first.
It was the hardest decision I've ever made, because I'll still wake up like having a dream. And I'm there, I'm in the locker room with the dudes before a game or something like that. And I'll wake up super excited. Like my heart's pumping. I'm like ready for the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
And it's a trip, because that was such a big moment. But for me, I knew I made the right decision being on this side of the fence. Hindsight's always 20/20, but still it's tough, because it was just an amazing thing to experience and accomplish. And so, it's a cool thing to talk about and think about.
Yeah, bro. It's interesting. I was not playing pro sports, but I played hardcore hockey, high level hockey, junior level hockey, which is like, probably 8 steps below the NHL. But my whole identity, this is where I'm trying to get to with this. My whole identity was an athlete. And when that train stopped and I had to shift, I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was like hopeless for a little bit. Like I didn't know what to do, because I'm like, I'm Greg, the hockey player. That's what everyone knows me about. How the fuck am I going to start over? What am I going to do now? And like, it was a whole problem. And I'm sure you went through a similar thing where you're just like, holy shit, now what?
Well, by the grace of God, for me, I actually didn't go through that. I fell right into working right away and just took off right away. I think for most people, that's probably the scariest moment, because I remember just looking at the eyes of some guys in college, knowing it was their last game.
Man.
There was no hopes or dreams or potential for anything else. And so it was like, this is it. And that's all that you had been doing forever.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate to not go through that. I think one of my best friends to this day, who I played college football with, he actually called me and was like, "Hey, Dean, I know you're done playing. What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm just kind of trying to figure things out." He's like, "Dude, I got an opportunity for you. I'm working at this company in San Francisco. It's this tech company. They're about to go public. And like, this is what they're all about." I was like, "Whoa, that sounds like exactly what I want." And so he literally walked me in the door to the recruiter, got me an interview. And as soon as I had that interview, I was instantly hired. And that could not have been more easier. That was a blessing in itself too, because I then on the other side, once hired, saw people show up and go through like gauntlets of interviews on Fridays for 8 hours and like maybe get a chance of a continued interview from there. But just because of my friend and his position and where he was at in the company, he was able to walk me in essentially. So that was like, that was like immediately, I don't know, 6 months after I was done playing, walked me right in the door and started from there. And that kind of to shift focus, I remember starting my professional working career as I'll call it a civilian. I like to kind of like
the military,
relate with the military folks, because
Yeah.
it's like there's people in the military who know and have lived and experienced and understand what it's like to be in the military, and then there's just civilians,
Yeah.
civilians,
Everyone else. Yeah. They don't get
they
it.
wake up, they sleep, that it's different.
Yeah.
So I kind of identify like that, where it's like being an athlete and a pro athlete to then being a civilian. I remember going to work and I'm like, this is easy. I'm like, I just have to wake up and just show up and sit down at this desk and slap these
Pick
keys
the phone
around.
up.
This is so easy. And I still had so much energy and was still all jacked up and everything like that and huge. So I just thought it was the easiest thing in the world. So I worked my ass off. That's what I know how to do best, is work really hard. And so, worked my ass off for a little over a year, and just remembering going into the kind of performance evaluation conversation. And I was like, oh, well, dude, they saw what I'm all about. I'm going to get a big raise. This is cool. This is great. This is super easy. They're like, great work, man. You're killing it. We'll increase your salary from 65,000 to, it was like 67,000 or something like that. I was like, okay, so I went from a contract for $1.25 million to $65,000. I worked my ass off and they're rewarding me with a couple $1,000. This is bullshit.
Yeah, bro. I'd be the same way.
I remember going back to my little studio in San Francisco and Googling how to get started in real estate. I kind of had that heart-to-heart moment. What are things that I'm passionate about? And I just remember the Dean Graziosi late night infomercials and like almost buying his course a couple of times. I was like, I really like real estate, and it's an industry that, is really broad in a lot of ways to make money. So long story short, man, just Google how to get started. I found Sean Terry's Flip to Freedom
podcast. Same here, bro. His Flip to Freedom in Phoenix, dude. That is what like got me really into the business, man. I felt like he was like my father or something.
Yeah, dude, for real. Yeah, I've studied it religiously, or I should say, followed it, because I was just listening to audio. And I obsessively listened, to the point where his content was so good and so precise. Like, he would review his contract. Again, I'm not visualizing this, I'm just listening. So I'm going through and taking notes. I remember waking up once or twice at like 2 a.m. because I couldn't stop thinking about it. And my body woke me back up. And I went back to sitting in my tiny studio where my wife's sleeping and listening to the podcast with my headphones on, just because I had to like listen to it again. So I was like a junkie on this and was following everything to a T. And from 90 days, 3 months from the first day I listened to it, that day I Googled it, I closed my first deal. And the cool part about the story of closing my first deal in 3 months was it was actually with Sean Terry. So I was following exactly what he was saying in his market. So I'm living in California. I'm following it in Phoenix and bidding on properties, get it under contract. Couldn't find a buyer. I submit my information on his website. So his acquisitions guy calls me.
No
like,
way.
oh, what's the deal? And so he's like, I said, oh, I want to co-wholesale this. And he says, oh, well, Sean should be able to take care of that. So he puts me in contact with Sean. We get on the phone. Yeah, no problem, dude. I'll take care of that. So then he sells it. He makes, we make 12 grand. We split it. I make 6 grand. He makes 6. And I was like, hell yeah.
Dude, so no one talks about that. So you actually listen to his podcast, which most people don't like to do. They'll stay stuck in their job forever because they don't want to change. Yeah. Not only did you listen to the podcast, there's always construction going on in my house.
Couldn't even hear it. You're good.
Okay. Anyway, so then you listen to the podcast, you take action, which is rare. Most people don't do that. And then on top of that, you did a deal with probably the most famous real estate podcaster in his own market, which is awesome. And that's directly adding value to him. Like, yeah, oh, my listener brought me a deal and we split 12 grand. Like that's pretty cool, especially as your first deal.
Super awesome, man. So it was pretty wild. And that was just like that confirmation that it was real, and, totally. And that I could do this. Cause I was like, this isn't too hard. It's a lot of effort and a lot of little pieces that come together that I got to figure out. But as I just took action, like you said, I was able to put all the pieces of the puzzle together and learn from there and grow from there,
Dude, that's awesome. So high level overview. So that's how you got your foot in the door. I know you've done real estate deals. I'll give the listeners some context. So you live in San Diego near me. Your business operates primarily in between from Bakersfield to Fresno, that whole Central Valley, correct?
Yeah. Okay. The whole Central Valley, which, what's interesting about it, because I never really considered or thought about this whole concept of being a virtual investor.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I did it like by accident.
Did it by accident. I did it by starting it, right? I knew that when I got that shit raise, that my lifestyle was not going to get to where it once was and where I hoped and dreamt it to always be. Because I've always had the feeling like I want to put a lot on my shoulders and I want to reach these big goals and dreams. And I want to provide an amazing lifestyle for my family. And like, I'm that guy, like
I love that.
I'd always excelled in sports. And so I felt the sports was going to get me there, right? Like, hey, I'm going to make it in the NFL, get a big contract, and I'm going to buy, everyone in my family a house. Everyone's going to be taken care of. So once that chapter had pretty much closed and I was now in the working world, I was like, well, this job isn't going to get me there.
Yeah, there's got to be another way.
Got to be another way. So, I think starting in San Francisco, I was just so intimidated by the city and not knowing the real estate market there. And just the real estate's different than where I grew up. If I had grown up in a city type environment, then those big buildings that are really expensive wouldn't have really intimidated me. But I grew up in neighborhoods where the houses are, $200,000, $300,000 houses. And so these shit box $1 million teardowns were pretty intimidating to me. And so I naturally, again, followed Sean Terry and his market, which felt similar from a price point and style of houses to the Central Valley. And then once I, did a couple deals in Arizona, I then was like, okay, I'm ready to do this in California and my market. I'm not going to do it in San Francisco where I'm living. So I went back to where I grew up, which is where I grew up in the Central Valley, and focused my marketing there and, took off. And it always felt natural because I knew the streets. I knew what the people were like. I could reference the high school I went to, all that kind of stuff. Right. To your point, I was a virtual investor from day one.
Yeah.
And met my business partner after a year of being in the business. We started flipping houses. He essentially was the boots on the ground. Still doing acquisitions virtually and everything. And then once I realized it was so cold in San Francisco and I wanted the good life, we moved back to San Diego to warmer weather. And again, been virtual the whole time.
That's awesome, bro.
It's been fun.
So do you let me ask you this. So I don't know the Central Valley at all, right? I just know San Diego and LA and all that stuff. Everyone thinks I'm from the Northeast. Everyone's like, oh, California. Oh, it's so expensive. I'm like, yeah, Southern Cal is expensive, but most of California, like inland is reasonable. So like your market, like what is the average price point? Like 350, 400,
The
right?
average, the median price points are going to
Fresno? Yeah.
be in the mid twos, up to the
Oh,
threes.
wow. Okay. Even
The
cheaper.
median, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're going to be in the mid twos to the threes. If you were to Google it, it's probably really close to three plus or minus. So $300,000. I mean, that's a move-in ready, nice house. If you're talking medium price point houses. So when it comes to investment properties, most of those are going to live. Our average, I just did it, 2021, 105 closed transactions. The median, the average price point of the purchase price was like 149 or something like that. Okay, so the average price point has moved up a little bit over the past couple of years. Before it was like in the mid 120s or something.
Yeah.
So taking a poll from 105 houses we closed in 2021, average price point 149 is the purchase price. And then most of the exits on those are going to be in the low mid twos.
Yeah.
And we're still finding rental properties and some other flips that we're able to pick up below $100,000, here and there.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's interesting you say that, because I started buying rentals. I'm from New York. Most of our business is in New York. We do a handful of deals in San Diego, but I've found that the more of these rentals I buy, the more trouble I get into with the landlord laws in New York. Just because like I buy with bad tenants because I get these deals.
Yeah.
And we end up just getting into these like crazy like eviction cases. So is that the same thing in the Central Valley, or is that more like LA and San Francisco? Because like I feel like in your area, even though I don't know it, it seems more business friendly for California. I'll be clear about that. Or is it still the same bullshit?
It's a much more conservative crowd for sure. Unfortunately, they still follow the same state laws.
That's true.
So
can't change
when
that.
it comes to evictions, it's still the same. I'd say, you're probably dealing with more local conservative judges and stuff like that. So they're not going to deal with as much crap, but it's still the same song and dance when it comes to getting people out who are just like, screw the system. I'm staying here. You big, mean, rich landlord. I'm going to take advantage of you.
Oh,
They really don't know what it's like to own a business and deal with expenses. And by the way, our business is paying all these taxes to support the things that you're probably taking advantage of. Thanks for staying in that property and for me. So
it's funny you say that. I always say to every tenant, they never know I own the property. I'm always the property manager. I don't really get
I've heard
involved.
I've heard you say that, which is
yeah, because I don't want them knowing I'm the big cheese, even though I'm nobody. But I'm always like, listen, I know that you want to stay and I wish you could stay, but here's how it's going to work. I know that you can't pay the market rent and I'm not kicking you out right now. I will let you stay for free for a couple months, but here's what's going to happen. If we don't come to an agreement, I'm going to give this money that I'm willing to give you to the attorney. So if you want this money, and I'll pay for a moving truck too. So this is the offer. I would love for you to take it. I think it would really benefit you. But if this is an offer you're going to decline, I will get the attorney involved and this money will be going to the attorney. And then eventually you will leave the property. So which would you like to do? And it's funny. You think a logical human would take an offer like that, but I always get the attorney and I'm like, hey, Kara, let's get a new one on the board. It's like a new contract, like a new eviction case. So it's funny how that works. I did an eviction in Texas one time and the guy was literally out in 2 weeks. It was crazy. 2 weeks. Notice on the door, got out of there, no problem. And it was just like, wow. But
I'm jealous.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to talk about some things that you're doing in your business. But before that, I know that you've done some business down in San Diego, correct? I know you've done some fix and flips down here. So how was your experience operating in like Southern California, where it's a little different than the Central Valley, where the prices are higher down here? Because I've done some business here too, and it's tough.
It's tough.
It's tough, bro.
So here's my story. It's not a fairy tale story on my ventures in San Diego. It's quite the opposite. So
I'm excited to hear it.
I've done like a handful and a half deals in San Diego. Okay. I got experiences from all. So I've made money and I've lost money. So the ones I made money, they were deals I flipped and did JV deals with other people. Because again, I wanted to kind of get my feet wet with other people that in theory knew what they were doing. Each one of those didn't do as well as had anticipated. And
Okay.
the first one, for example, was in Ocean Beach. Did a flip there,
Okay.
beach house, coastal style, small little place, but selling again for, really expensive. And it was one of those ones where the comps are so unique and specific to
Yes,
where if you're
dude.
one block over,
Yes.
oh man, it's raining money and a big payday. Ooh, that one block right there. Yeah, about that. It's,
Totally,
the same
bro.
house, same look, same everything. Yeah, that's going to be, $70,000 less. So came out alive on our first one that we did not hit the numbers we expected. But again, made a profit, and it was like, oh, okay, well, I guess we learned on that one to be careful.
Yeah.
And so that's something that's tricky about kind of like those coastal kind of properties. Every little street can really make the biggest difference.
Did you have to deal with the coastal commission on that too?
No, because we weren't moving walls or doing anything like
Okay.
that. It was just all interior
Yeah.
cosmetic stuff.
Okay. Yeah. That's a nightmare.
Yeah, I've heard stories.
Only
So,
place you don't need the coastal commission, by the way, is Coronado, which you think you would need it there. That's the only place.
You think that would be wildly controlled?
Yeah, you don't need it in Coronado. That's the only place, which is it's literally on the water. Anyway, so
it's surrounded by water. It's a peninsula.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. There's that military base there. So anyway, so you did a deal in OB. So so these are all fix and flips. So you're not doing this was an assignment. These
all fix and flips. No, I did one assignment, the best deal I've ever done in San Diego, hands down. It took no effort. It was a $40,000 assignment deal in San Diego.
I love it.
Posted it on Instagram and Facebook. Immediately got hit up. Closed it in, a week and a half. Super easy, and it came from a referral as well. It was just a complete layup, and couldn't have been any easier.
I love
so that. That's my investment in San Diego story. I'll stick to. But the cry your eyes out story is the one where you guess you could set the premise with it was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Okay? Now, this dude happened to be in our trusted circle of people. Okay. I'll leave names of people out. I'll leave groups of people out. But there was a group of people. There's a big group of people, very trusted, very respected, and pretty much the quality of all people in this type of group is on the up and up. Just good, legit people. Well, this dude was one of those, let me get in this good group of people and take advantage of as many as people. And the punchline is he took people for millions of dollars. And his deal, his strategy would basically buy a shit flip where the numbers didn't make sense, but he was such a good con artist that he would convince the hard money lender to get in on the deal and lend the money. He'd borrow the money from someone else,
like the gap money.
Bring in the gap money, right? Yeah. And additional rehab or even extra money. He'd get like seconds or thirds on properties.
Oh my God.
He wouldn't record the seconds or thirds, even though he said he would.
Dude.
And the numbers would basically pencil out to, like, in best circumstances, maybe break even on the property, maybe even a little bit of loss, maybe even a little bit of profit, and got lucky on some deals.
Yeah.
So most of his deals were absolute garbage. And again, whoops in sheep's clothing. Oh, shouting from the mountaintops, we're making all this money. All this money's coming in from all these different places. He's got all these projects going up. So my sob story where I got involved was he had a new construction project.
Where was it? What neighborhood?
It was in Vista.
Oh, that's not too far from me.
Okay. Vista.
Yeah.
And there was two lots, one right next to each other. He was going to do one himself, and he was willing to sell the one next to it. It's like, cool. Well, that gives me extra security. I'm not familiar with new construction, but the numbers look really good. And he's going to do his right next to me. He can do my project, and like, this will be pretty simple. I feel good and comfortable about this.
Yeah.
Punchline on that one is it was all just a house of cards. The hard money lender who he had in place and had agreed and green lighted the fact that I was going to come in and own that other lot had no idea I was coming in. He had already taken a big draw on fees and costs that he had incurred for entitlement fees and architect fees. By the way, he had those people do work for him, but never paid them. So there was outstanding payments due to those people. So it was the biggest shit show. He ended up bailing on the project. Okay.
Bro, that sucks, bro.
Super sucks.
Oh.
So long story short, I owned a nice piece of dirt on a nice corner lot in a nice neighborhood that not one piece of dirt was moved for the year and a half that I owned it. By the time I sold it and, negotiated down payments for all these different
liens all over the thing, dude. That's a disaster, bro.
Renegotiated the loan and had to re-up on it, do all these different things. I lost $187,000, dude, on that deal. That's a big ouchies right there.
That's a fucking blow, dude.
Can you imagine, dude, losing 187 grand? Now I've heard other people that told me stories of losing $1 million.
Yeah. But that's a big fucking whammy. Cause that's a lot of money. Dude. Yeah. That's a lot. I don't care how rich someone is. That's a lot of cash. I don't lose. I just lost 10 grand on a deal last week. And that sucked. Right. And it's and listen, if someone's just getting started and they lose 10 grand, that could fuck them up. Right. But 180.
Yeah.
What was, let me ask you this. Obviously, I'm thinking this is an obvious question, but from that big catastrophe, if you had to boil down one lesson besides the obvious of know who you're doing, what is your maybe your 2 or 3 biggest lessons from that whole, they call that seminars. I hear my friends when they lose money, they go, I had a seminar last week.
Learning lesson.
Yeah. Seminar. Yeah.
It was an education.
VIP ticket for you. A VIP ticket, fast pass.
Wrote a check for an education instead of college. I went to masters. I got my masters. I wrote a check right there, 187 grand.
Yeah.
So the biggest lesson, and honestly, I beg people, everybody, no matter what, no matter who it is, do the due diligence. And what is due diligence? Check out the repair estimator that it makes sense. Ask them that, are you sure these numbers are right? Which I did a million times. Take the extra step, just one extra step. All I had to do is make one extra phone call because I relied on the facts that this one person was giving me solely. If I made one extra call to the hard money lender, hey, you know what? That's cool. They're on board with me joining. Let me call them. I know exactly who they are already.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I call them and say, hey, so I just want to get the full story here and make sure I understand what the expectations are. Wait, what? He already took a draw. You're not on board with this deal. Oh, well, then this deal isn't for me. Click. I just saved $187 by one more phone call. So the biggest lesson is if you're doing something outside of your comfort zone or a deal that you're not doing every single day and you're just 100% certain of, right? Like these wholesale deals that we're just cranking out on a regular basis. We did, 105 closed transactions last year. Those are all deals that I do every single day. The confidence is, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
The deals that it's I'm not familiar with this, or, I'm working with this other person I'm not used to working with. Make that one extra call. If it's a contractor, that you're about to start work with, get some referrals. Tell me 3 other investors you work with. Let me call them and find out the experience. Yeah. That guy was a real dirtbag. He did crap work and he ended up walking away from the job. Oh, thanks for saving me money.
Yeah, right.
There's
I've made that mistake, dude. Oh,
there's some projects I could have saved some serious money on with that exact example, making the additional call. So anytime I've lost money on a deal, which has been a handful of times, it's always because I didn't make that extra phone call.
Dude, that is such good advice. And it's similar. You're saying stuff that I know and I've experienced the hard way. Every time I've done a stupid deal, I actually lost money in California too. Not to the extent that you did. I mean, that's extremely painful. Yeah. This was like a little paper cut, but I got involved in a deal I didn't understand in Julian. I had no fucking clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
Did a seller carry deal. I literally have never done a seller finance deal in my life. And up to the point I probably did, 90 deals. And I'm like, oh yeah, seller finance, no interest. Cool. And dude, lost money, bought a commercial building. No idea what I'm doing. Lost money. And I'm like reflecting on it. I'm like, you know what? Every time I get involved in a deal that I don't understand, I need, like you said, I needed to do the extra homework and I didn't because I was excited about the deal. Oh, this is cool. No interest. Oh, I got this mixed use building. I'm the next commercial tycoon. It's like, no, stick to what you know. Like stick to the flips, stick to the assignments, stick to the single family rentals. Like people like to poo-poo the wholesale business and the single family rental business. And I'm like, what are you poo-pooing? Like you can make 7 figures net in this business if you know what you're doing. And like, you know, like, oh, I'm on to bigger and better things. I'm like, okay, cool. Like that's great for you. But like, I like this business. I get energy from this business.
Yeah.
And it's a simple business. It's nothing crazy. I was telling my acquisitions guy, I'm like, dude, isn't this the most simple business in the world? He's like, exactly. It's just not easy. And I said, exactly. It's not easy. It's simple though. It's a very straightforward business. So
very much so. Now, the biggest lesson I'd say to those just starting out that are like, well, dude, I don't have experience. I haven't even done my first deal. The thing that I would beg that person to do is be willing to be uncomfortable to put themselves out there to ask someone experienced. Like, I don't know if I'd go to the Sean Terry right away.
Yeah.
Because he might not respond to me because I'm sure he's getting inundated with people asking questions. But go to the, as you said, in a humble way earlier, go to the nobodies like you and me and be willing to ask us a question. You know what I mean? Yeah. Ask us a question because, hey, guess what? Chances are someone's going to get back to you and, you know, fact check or give you a reality check on what's going on with that. You have an ARV of 300,000, dude, no way. That's like 215.
Yep.
So you might have just saved that person and vice versa in their shoes just by being uncomfortable to put themselves out there and be the noob, be the rookie who's asking for a favor, who's asking to get another set of eyes. As long as you're not just like pestering with questions and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but like,
there's an art doing it.
Yeah, there's an art in doing it. Put yourself out there, ask the uncomfortable question, because would you rather be uncomfortable asking the questions or uncomfortable losing $50,000?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're wholesaling, because that wholesaling is getting all this crap now because people are locking up deals that don't make sense. I always answer people's messages. I got no problem, especially if they like email me. That's like my preferred communication style. It's like someone emails me. Like I had a guy email the other day about a property and I'm like, oh yeah, here's the numbers. This is what I think we pay for. We make this much money. Takes me 3 minutes to respond and probably made the guy's freaking day. Right. And if we do business together, great. If we don't, that's all good. You know, it doesn't really, it's cool to be able to give back. Right. Cause we've all started there. We've all been there. We've been rookies, you know, we've been like scraping by to get a deal. And it's always good to be able to give back. That's why I like doing this podcast. So Dean, as we start to conclude the show, I've been following you on Instagram for a while and I can tell that one of your favorite marketing strategies or channels is doing JV deals with other investors, which is pretty much going in sync with what we just discussed. So how does your company, Home Helpers Group, you know, how can you work with other investors local in the Fresno, Bakers, what is it called? The Central Valley?
The Central Valley.
In the Central Valley area, because you really add a lot of value with the whole entire investing community there. And we know a lot of the same people like Stratton and some of those guys. So they always got great things to say about you.
Thanks, man. Yeah. So first things first, I just know that over the years, I've talked about this before, just the whole idea of having the right mindset. So when I first got started, you know, I'm sure like a lot of people, they get into the business because they got big goals, big dreams. They're very driven, self-motivated. And a lot of that comes from trying to prove things to themselves, maybe prove things to other people. So you kind of guard your feelings and your pride, you wrap all that up and kind of build like an ego. And a lot of that results in a kind of a scarcity mindset. In the sense that like, it's going to be me against the world. Like I'm going to show all you people. So I'm going to go out there, I'm going to bust my ass. I'm going to get deals done, make a bunch of money. And, you know, I'll show you guys. So when I first got started, that was kind of my mindset. Even though like I was always professional and respectful and did things the right way, always, but I was very kind of closed in and didn't reach out to a lot of people. Well, you know, flash forward a handful of years ago, I realized, hey, you know what? These guys aren't my competition. I should be working with some of these guys. Like I come up against these guys in deals where the seller's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm talking to blah, blah, blah too. I'm like, oh, I know those guys. Yeah, those guys are great guys. here's what I can say about us, right? Focus on us, because we're not there to bash other people. So
Totally love
we'd
that.
hang up the phone and call that other person. Hey, yo, dude, I just heard your name on the other line with the seller. Let's work this deal together. Let's not bid each other up. It doesn't make any sense. Only one of us is going to win. So how about I take lead and you sit back, we'll split the deal, and you talk us up. Oh yeah, those guys are great, type of thing. So
dude, I love that.
Happened. So my mindset started opening and starting seeing other people. This is while I'm, still handling acquisitions.
Yeah.
So then we got our acquisitions manager in, and I was able to focus on more relationships. So as I started building more relationships and having a different perspective, I kept seeing new wholesalers, experienced wholesalers, new and old investors, realtors, and we started getting more and more referral business as people kind of knew who we were at. And I was like, dude, this referral business is dope. Getting free deals from people is awesome. We're spending a bunch on marketing, but this free stuff is cool. So then, it kind of evolved into realizing, hey, we've got a lot of experience. We know how to handle tough, difficult situations with the seller, with the property, and we're pretty darn competent and efficient in getting these deals done. And then as we shifted focus from doing tons of flips to primarily wholesaling 2 years ago, we started to develop really good buyers, and kind of became known as the it guys when it comes to buyers. So to kind of wrap all that up, as the abundance mindset has grown and realized it's way more fun doing deals with other people and providing value to them. Like the more value you provide, the more comes back to you.
Totally, bro. I love that.
It's the law of attraction, man. I mean, the more that you're just putting good energy out there, that you're helping other people, there's no doubt there's a law of attraction that just comes back to you. And it feels good for everybody. So what we've been able to basically do is I've coined it the Friends with Benefits program. And essentially,
I'm a big fan of that program.
Yeah.
It's a good program besides real estate.
Real estate too is cool.
Yeah.
So I realized, the Friends with Benefits program is essentially this. It's if you have a lead or a deal that you've locked up, regardless of the scenario, even just a qualified lead, we're willing to contact the seller, have conversations, negotiate, go on an appointment, get it under contract. Once we've done all that, we're willing then to find the buyer who's willing to pay top dollar and handle the whole escrow process and literally make it extremely easy. So imagine if you're new and you're fumbling over this deal, you just know they want to sell, you're going to screw it up. I'm able to give you the confidence on what numbers are going to make the deal a good deal. I'm also able to negotiate on your behalf with the seller, get it locked up under contract, give the seller confidence that we're actually going to close it, because a lot of new people will screw up the deal because they're like, show me a proof of funds. And they're like, oh,
can I go on lending home? And then it's like, it's showing them some bullshit bank letter. Yeah.
Exactly. So
that's funny.
We can do all this stuff to provide some legitimacy and confidence in the deal. And then we're going to not only do that, but we're also going to sell it to a buyer who's arguably one of the top paying buyers in the whole valley, and going to get you the most amount of money, probably way more money that you would have made even if you did it on your own, right? You might have screwed up the deal, not even gotten to that point to get it under contract, let alone the fact we're going to also sell it for a real premium price. That buyer is so happy to pay because it works for them and they're a repeat buyer for us. So we've basically, got the front end taken care of, the back end. And also, if you have a deal, you happen to have a deal already under contract, chances are we're going to sell it way higher. I've had this happen where they're like, hey, I had a buyer back out. I saw your Friends with Benefits deal. I'd like to give it a try. And we blow them out of the water. We sell it above and beyond what they thought and made more money than what they would have made with their previous buyer. And that's after splitting it in half. So, I feel like we've added a ton of value for a lot of people, and we're working with experienced investors too. So experienced investors, they're like, hey, you know what? I got these leads coming in. You guys got it figured out. For me, I just press a button, my marketing goes out, the leads come in, I give it to Home Helpers Group, they handle the rest. And I've got this automated system to where they've now removed having to hire additional employees, put in the additional work, handling the whole escrow process. They've just eliminated so much cost for putting a deal together, including their time. And now they've automated a money machine for themselves. So we've done that for experienced investors as well. Which is
I know a guy who moved to Florida who used to live in Fresno, and I'm pretty sure he does that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Stratton's, I mean, it makes sense too, because everyone's trying to scale their business. You guys have the infrastructure in place to pump out these deals. So for someone banging their head against the wall running a business, they could give you the leads, get half the profit with zero real energy and effort. And it makes sense for both parties. It's such a smart idea, man. So you got to get that domain, friendswithbenefitsrei.com, because I'm sure the other one's a little fucking weird. So I'd avoid the first domain. If you're listening to this and you go there, I'm not taking responsibility for what you might see. So man, this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed our conversation today. If people are listening and they're in the Fresno Central Valley area, what's the best way for them to, number one, connect with you? Number two, check you out on YouTube, because I want to talk about that. And then number three, get involved in the Friends with Benefits REI program.
Yeah. So first and foremost, if someone wants to connect with me, the easiest way is just go on Instagram. So go to Dean Rogers Real Estate. Just search Dean Rogers Real Estate. That's my handle on Instagram, and you'll find me right there. YouTube is fun, man. It's just exactly what you're doing, where you're talking with other people who are doing cool stuff and trying to provide some value for people. So I started the YouTube channel just recently. If you just go search Dean Rogers in YouTube, you'll find me in there. And then, if people want to get involved with the Friends and Benefits program, just go to Instagram, Dean Rogers Real Estate, shoot me a DM, and we'll connect and we'll get things going, man.
I love it. And I see Dean's stories all the time. He's every Friday, it's like closing Friday, and he's got all these PayPals he's sending. He's legit. I really, if you're in that market, this could be a tremendous opportunity to make some money with your deal. So Dean, man, this is awesome. We'll make sure we got all this in the show notes, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, bro. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me on.